The Edmonton Elks head out to Ottawa looking to get their first win of the season. They don't do that tonight. They drop to 0-6 as the Edmonton Elks fall 20-14 to the Ottawa Redblacks. Welcome to the Green and Gold. I'm hearing myself twice there. Welcome to the Green and Gold post-game show live right here on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Tune in iHeartRadio as well as those watching on YouTube. Iwanyk and Jay Milne with you here at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge, where every day is game day. There's lots to discuss of this Elks game. You can jump into the nasty chat on YouTube. Already some texts flying in there. Also, you can jump into the Paris Jewelers inbox, 780-218-9999. Before we get into the game, great crew coming out to Century Casino tonight. We had Andrew and Jason. We had Rip City Step. We had Corey B. We had T-Roy. We had Atif and his crew. We had Jason, who was in the EST Classic.
Yes.
We had a bunch of people come out tonight, so it was a lot of fun.
Jason's daughter Alex is the server that's always here.
Yes. I'm just gonna crack out my headphone too a little bit here. There we go. Yeah, she's a wonderful server too.
Oh yeah.
She's been fantastic for us most of the games this season. Well, everyone here at Century Casino has been great. Although Renee had the one appearance at the start where she waved to us, and then I didn't see Renee again. So this is just like. I was going to be like, oh,
what
I guess.
What was that about?
I think she wanted to be like, oh, look, I'm around. But she wasn't. I'm coming at you, Renee. So it was a fun time here for us. It was a fun time here for us. As for the Edmonton Elks out of Ottawa, not so fun, especially for a guy named Boris Beatty. But let's quickly, Jay, I'll bring you in right now. And just your overall thoughts of what we saw down at TD Place Stadium in Ottawa.
I don't know what that was. That might have been the worst football game in its entirety that I've seen in a long while. I saw a chat message earlier that at least they didn't lose on a last-second field goal. I guess that's a victory.
From Rip City Step.
Yeah.
It's just sitting over there.
Yeah, right over there. Good point, Rip. I don't know. To sum this up, last week, I thought I was maybe a little hard on number 14, Boris Beatty. This week, I think I'm going to double down. I think I'm going to. 3 missed field goals. And not long field goals. 3 missed field goals, 9 points that were left out in the field, and that's the game. That's the difference between winning and losing. And lackluster offensive production, very lackluster. The defense, the front four, stepped up, right? We mentioned that in the kickoff show. They stepped up. The defensive secondary is still a disaster.
But 2 picks.
Yeah. They could not stop much. I mean, there was, wide open receiver after wide open receiver. Pimpleton at the end of the game in the 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter should have had a sure touchdown, but he dropped it. I don't know what to say. It's very rare in my life that I'm speechless. I am somewhat speechless about what to say about where does this team go? What did they do? I don't know. They got rid of the big bad wolf and Chris Jones. You're supposed to have a fresh start. I thought that the offensive play calling was as abysmal as it has been all year. It was terrible. Awful. You're 2nd and 10 and you're throwing 4-yard gains. What are you doing? As an offensive play call, maybe they're digging in and running routes behind it, but there's not enough time. I must say the offensive line did look rather cheese-ish, porous tonight. They were awful. They got exposed. But that's what teams do when they have to adjust to take advantage of what they see as a weakness. For some reason, Edmonton doesn't adjust. They don't make changes. Boris Beatty's locker should have been cleaned last week before he stepped foot back in the locker room. It wasn't. I was disappointed. Well, I'll tell you what. He now cost you 2 games in a row. And like you could almost matter-of-factly say that he cost you 2 games in a row. One player on a 58-man roster cost you 2 games in a row. Some of these changes that G. Roy Simon and Jarius Jackson alluded to, I think they're going to be made sooner than later. You just can't have that. I'm sorry. You're a professional athlete. You get paid a lot of dollars to kick a football through the uprights or down the field. And you can't do either. This fella maybe will want to get on camera. That's awesome.
Just like when they look, they have to step back to look what we're looking at.
It was like, what is going on here?
And you're just going to want to pause that. Sorry. On the other page. Well, no, I just know what you're trying to do. You can pause that.
Sorry. It's inexcusable. I'm sick of it. I don't know what else to do, though. What do you do? I mean, you look at they came out to an awful start. Let's start at the start of the game. Awful start. First drive, they came out, they're up 7-0. Then the defense woke up. 2 sacks in the first quarter. Well, they changed one to a tackle for loss. 2 interceptions. Hey, the defense is playing. Trey Ford came in. Injected Trey Ford in. Didn't work out. That's not to say it's not going to work out. I was just happy to see him get into the game. I can't believe they didn't go back to him later in the game.
There's a couple of drives that you would have felt after those drives you were going, switch it up again.
Why not?
Switch it up again.
Switch it up. MBT's getting his boots run off because the O-line's collapsing. Well, why not give the ball to a guy that can get outside of that rush? And if the pocket collapses and they're coming at you, well, use your legs and get out of it. Then it's open field. I was disappointed they didn't go back to Trey Ford, especially in the later stages. MBT was just not on. It just wasn't on. So, you look at the 2 culprits that we're talking about a lot here, more so than not, especially in recent weeks. Boris Beatty and MBT. MBT's not losing you games, but he's certainly not winning you games. And Boris Beatty is straight out losing you games. He's I don't know. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth and become a talking point in the locker room, but this is absurd. This is professional damn football, Matt.
Yeah. Lots of comments in the Nasty Chat, Paris Jewelers inbox. I want to get to those right away here. Just want to run off some of the points you made. I don't have much else to add with Boris Beatty. I think we've seen, he misses 3 kicks tonight. That's a huge difference in this game. And they're also prior to, I can't remember exactly when, a few years ago, the Elks just didn't have that kicker, and you drive down the field as an offense, I can imagine. You get into a field goal range, you're thinking, okay, at least we got some points as you're walking off the field.
Yeah.
And then your kicker misses. And you can just, how deflating that must be on the sideline as a team, where you go, okay, so the only points we can get have to be touchdowns because our kicker can't hit a field goal. I wouldn't have cut him after last week. I don't see how, when you have a guy like Dean Faithful on the roster, and look, I'm not a Dean Faithful guy. I was pretty critical of him last year. I said very emphatically going in the offseason, that's a position you need to upgrade on. But when you have him there, he made a couple big kicks last year. Save the money. Move on from Boris Beatty and go to Dean Faithful. Because it can't be worse. In the end, it's not going to be worse than what you get from Boris Beatty in any way, shape, or form. So save some money. So move on from Boris Beatty. We see this in the NFL a lot. When that kicker has a couple bad weeks, it's tryout time, bring in those kickers. You don't need to do tryout time. You've got the kicker. Just put Dean Faithful into the lineup and see what can happen. Maybe he can make some of those kicks because that's just going to be the extra. This team doesn't need to be deflated any more than it already is. And Boris Beatty goes out there and he deflates this team a little bit more. When it comes to the O-line, what we saw was, I think this is what the O-line is. And this was a game finally where MBT didn't have a quick decision and a quick release on his footballs. And that then led to the O-line now has to protect their quarterback because MBT's that quarterback that could throw the ball generally really quickly. It didn't happen, so the pocket collapsed a lot. And we saw what the true Edmonton Elks offensive line is, and that's not good. And this goes back to they should have improved it over the last number of years, and they haven't gone and done that. The secondary, as you pointed out, look, 2 interceptions, that's good, but they still give up too many big plays. They still can't settle in and just help kill a drive. The offense lackluster. While I give Jarius Jackson credit for trying different things and trying some trickery, if you will, if you want to call it some of that, or some less vanilla plays, Ottawa knew it was coming every single time. I don't know how they just always knew, but right off the bat, they knew it was coming, and none of it worked. Trey Ford, I will get to a little more Trey Ford later in the show. He was all right. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say he was great. No one could sit here and say he was great. He wasn't piss poor or anything like that. I will say that in the end,
he wasn't bad. He
wasn't piss poor.
What did he have? He had, 2 series?
He was 1 of 2 for 4 yards. He also rushed for 3 yards. Didn't get a first down. It was all right. But also, I will go, like, he hasn't played football since, well, I guess preseason if you count that, but regular season football since last year. He hasn't thrown the football even if you go to preseason. It's been a few months. There's a little bit of rust going to be shaken off. We said we wouldn't be surprised if he didn't see the field today. I'm just surprised at the fact that he saw the field today, that he didn't see it again later. That's the one thing that I'm a little surprised by when it comes to Jarius Jackson with Trey Ford, that they didn't go, well, you get, with the way, it's not like MBT was lighting it up. It's not like he was doing so good that it's like, well, you can't sit him now. There's a lot of opportunities that you could have quickly set MBT for Trey Ford yet again. That didn't happen. Now I just wonder about this team, and you mentioned there, where does this team go from here? They're on this point right now where I feel like where do they go from here is it's on to 2025. This season's done. They're very close to that. They right now sit 4 points, 2 games back of the Calgary Stampeders, who do have a game in hand now. They take on the BC Lions. I'm expecting the BC Lions to win that football game. But you've got the Bombers who are sitting also at 4 points. Are they going to catch the Bombers for third? It's hard for me to see that right now. And then when you look at it out east, the crossover's not there. Montreal, they're not catching Montreal. There are 3 games back of Toronto. There's 4 games back of Ottawa.
Well, they just got to catch one of them.
And Toronto's a better football. And the Toronto is getting Hamilton right now. They're going to pick up some victories. You have to pass Ottawa because you've lost the season series. You're already 1 game down to Toronto, so you're already losing the season series in that one. When you're looking at the path to the playoffs for this team, right now, really, the only spot is 3rd place in the West. And that looks a little daunting at this moment. How many more losses till this team now just has to give up and start looking to next year? And that's where you start cutting some guys that you don't need, and you start bringing them some, it's that training camp situation throughout the year. To me, they're not far off from that because you can't beat Ottawa. You can't beat any of the good teams. Who are you going to beat this season? We get Hamilton next week into Edmonton. They get to play each other.
Sorry, but that's a silly question.
Why?
Because at this point,
they can't win at games. They can't. Who can you feel confident that they're going to win a football game against?
They can lose to everybody. They could lose to every. They could lose every
100%.
game. But they could also win some.
Oh, okay, enough to make the playoffs?
No, I didn't say that.
But that's the point. Like, I'm looking at the playoffs here. You could go win. I don't care about winning 2-3 football games. We're talking about making the playoffs here. That's what this season is about, to go make the playoffs. So should they beat Hamilton next week? Absolutely. Can you sit here right now and say they're going to beat the Saskatchewan Roughriders the week after that? The BC Lions? Nope, I can't. Hamilton Tiger Cats? Sure. Montreal? Nope. Back-to-back against Calgary? Who knows? Okay, so right now I'm seeing maybe 4 wins. Winnipeg? Nope. Winnipeg? Nope. Saskatchewan? Nope. Calgary? Maybe 5 wins. Toronto? Nope. That's 5-win season. You're out of the playoffs. That's what we're looking at here. Because it's either can you make the playoffs or do you start looking to 2025 and start developing people? Yeah, sure, they could go win football games. Of course they could go win football games. But you want to know, they haven't yet this season. And we're 6 games in. We're a third of the way through this season, and they haven't won a football game.
Okay, so then let's just do this. The team stinks.
Yes.
Quarterback is Jekyll and Hyde. We said that since week 3.
Yep.
Running game is non-existent.
Yep.
Offensive line got torched tonight, and they would tell you that. Defensive line played their best game of the year, maybe their second best.
Yeah, 100%. That's one of the few bright spots from tonight's game.
That was probably one of the lone bright spots. The defensive secondary was non-existent after the first quarter.
Sure. But 2 picks. I'll get that. There's a little positive I'll find. He's maybe looking for a positive.
But that's the other thing. Interception. Nothing. 2 and out. Stop. Turnover on downs. 2 and out. Interception. 2 and out. They did not capitalize on any of the momentum-changing plays during this game. Not one. Sorry, they did on one, and and Beatty actually kicked one through the uprights. Do you know how hard it is for me to not say every word I want to say right now?
You can say it off the air, dude. I'll let you say it all off the air. Anthony Johnson saying, "Glue guy looks so pissed."
I am. You know what? It's just because this team is just a hot mess. There's nothing consistent about this team. Absolutely nothing. They are lost adrift. Speak about the prop draft we're having next Thursday at EST. They are Wilson lost at sea. They have no direction, nowhere to go, no home. It's just a discombobulated team.
But then that's where I go to that we're almost at a point where this season is lost, and it's on to 2025. Because what else is the point of this season?
Well, it's not like you're on to like the CFL draft is tiddlywinks. It's nothing.
It's the Elks don't have a first-round pick this year.
Who cares?
Well, you don't have a first-round pick.
Honestly, who cares?
Well, that's
it's the CFL draft.
Go look at. I guarantee if you go look at the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and other teams that have had success over the last number of years, they have found players in the CFL draft. That's where you get Canadians.
You find offensive linemen. Yeah,
absolutely.
Sure.
Okay, well, what do the Elks need? Offensive linemen. But what did they go do? They got a wide receiver. They lost their first-round pick to get a wide receiver that hasn't seen the field yet. That's part of why Chris Jones is gone, in my opinion, because they can't go find players. But there's a point of where you start just. I'll say it right now. Then there's a point where you then.
What are you going to do?
You put in Trey Ford as the starting quarterback.
Sure.
You send Boris Beat to put Dean Faithful in there. I don't care what other position. Put in Michael Broderick. Now, put in Joel DeBlanco. Because he's go start playing some youth players and give them the reps.
Now hang on. Joel DeBlanco is playing behind Niles Morgan, who is clearly one of the Elks' top players.
He has the ability to play a different spot.
Not really. No.
He thinks he can, so go see it.
All right. Well, then put him on D-line then.
Well,
you can't put him on. He is a tank. You cannot put him.
He believes he could play in one of the different spots.
Of course he would. But the reality is he can't. You can't take a person like that and just, hey, I want to try you at halfback.
Will linebacker?
Maybe Will. That would be the only position.
Okay, so why not?
Sure.
But so there are positions that you could potentially still do this with. We saw last year Jake Serezna move from defensive tackle to defensive end. You know, there can be some movement. But, what else is the point of this season? Give those guys some reps.
So let's just say this. Okay, it's a dumpster fire. It's bad. But what do? You can't just, remember fail for Ekblad, or what was it? Fall for Ekblad, or what was that thing, right? You know, you can't.
Fall for Hall?
Yeah, who's the number one pick in the CFL draft? I don't know.
Well, we don't know because the CFL doesn't do a good enough job of promoting this, but it also doesn't matter. But it also doesn't matter because the Elks don't have a first-round pick.
So what do you suggest then? Just
put in some younger players.
For the rest of the game?
Go cut some players and sign some other players. I'm not saying that's happening right now. I'm saying we're close to that point where I don't care about some of these veterans.
I would have liked to have a larger sample size on Trey Ford tonight. I'm not going to lie.
And I'm still not at the point saying he needs to be the starting quarterback next week. What I was saying is we're getting close to that precipice where this season has to be completely. It doesn't matter about this season. Wins don't even really matter about this season. It becomes a training camp for 2025, an extended training camp for 2025.
Yeah.
Where go make some trades. Go find a trade with another team that has a veteran that they're not happy with, and go bring them in or somebody, because you now need to rebuild this team for next year. Because again, They go beat Hamilton, sure, but what's going to happen after that? I just don't see a lot of left for this season runway for them to try to claw back into this.
Yeah, but you can't just put lipstick on a pig. See you, Jason? You can't put lipstick on a pig at this juncture. You are who you are. They are who they are. They're an 0-6 team.
Yes. So then what's the point of the rest of this season? What's the goal of this season?
I honestly don't know. Try salvage fans?
Okay, well then there's only one answer to that one.
Which is? Put Trey Ford in?
Yes, because the other answer is win.
Okay.
But that's not easy. But I don't think that shouldn't play into this now because new ownership's coming. You got the new ownership group, as much as they'd like to see Trey Ford maybe play right now or whatever, they need a win next year.
Oh, yeah.
So it's finding the players that are going to be part of the solution for next year and which players you're happy with, gone. We don't need you.
You're just running a really slippery slope here.
Of
absolute disaster. This is like level 2 of disaster. I'm talking there's 6 layers of disaster. You don't want to get to that 6th.
We saw it 2 years ago anyways.
Not really.
Yeah, we saw in a training camp where over 100 players came through this team.
But the results, Matty, and the fans, that is something that the CFL, it's CFL, not only the Elks, but the CFL can't afford to have the greatest team in CFL history go absent. They can't. I'm telling you this right now.
No, sure, but how are you going to win football games right now?
I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
Lie, bite in the ankles. I don't know.
There's no easy way to just win a football game. So, what else are you going to do here? Just keep going with the exact same lineup and keep losing these close football games?
Okay, so you say put Trey Ford in.
No, I'm saying that we're getting to a point where the season goes towards next year. I haven't said that yet. I have not said that that's where this team is at yet. I said they're getting close to that line.
Close to that.
They got to go start winning some football games or this season is going to be done before this month is out.
Well, I don't know. You know, when they look like a duck, walk like a duck, it's usually a duck. That's what this team reminds me of. And it's just, you know, you'd think there'd be some man up. Get the job done.
You'd think after the coach got fired, you'd get that bump.
But that locker, I don't know. I don't know what's going on in that locker room. I don't want to know. But it certainly isn't anything that's positive. It can't be. This team has no resolve, no fight. It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. And now it's starting to, you know, the things that you had and you were counting on, like the offensive line really didn't get touched like they did tonight all season. Well, they got touched tonight. It was bad. It did not look good. Those are things that were normally good leading up to this. But tonight was just a debacle. Bad.
Going through some comments in the nasty chat. JL, how could you not cut Beatty after back-to-back week disasters? Sheldon S. Well, I would much rather you take me out back and kick me in the nuts than watch that game. So just wants to be taken out completely that way. What do we got? Tube Socks. I find it odd that they use a black and white camera for the main overhead stadium shot in Ottawa. It was a very bad camera.
Awful.
We're trying to figure, is it the lighting situation? Is the camera? We couldn't figure out what was the issue with that one. JC the Glazer, can anyone name one thing that went well for the Elks tonight? I can't. Well, we went with the defensive line looked improved. We will give them that credit. That has to be given there. I don't know if that's the Almondo Sewell effect after just a couple of games as defensive line, but the D-line was doing well, and they were able to get some pressure, even just rushing, 4 guys. So credit there. Duck Dad, at least this wasn't a new way to lose. Tango changing quarterbacks in Winnipeg is different. They want to keep the defense tired, not like what I saw today. The Wolves, sorry guys, I was watching the hangout because I still have 0 service at work. Just lost in Fort St. John. I forgot a pregame show until Maddie mentioned it close to the end, so now he's tuned in a little bit to the postgame show after the hangout. Want to get into the Paris Jewelers inbox. Shaggy in St. Albert, once again, close game, but find the path to a loss. This week, the defense looked respectable, but the offense had no finish. It will take a while to remove the loser stench of the Chris Jones era. Elks get the participation trophy every week, but don't know how to win. MBT getting paid to win, but he's wasted money. Could be 0-6 with Ford at QB and at least figure out if he's a keeper. A one-year mercenary QB was a waste of this season. Chris Sadaway, can the Elks finally say no matter who is starting this season is shot? 2025 rides on a fully confident Trey Ford, and that only happens with starts. Babu Stash, defense shows up in the offense. Aside from Geno Lewis is atrocious. This team can't put it together. Holy bleep, this is frustrating. I don't know what they should do. Keep those texts coming in. Paris Jewelers inbox. Also into the nasty chat, Paris Jewelers inbox 780-218-9999. Lance Kane, the season's over. I'm okay with that. Give me some cheap beer, a rad tailgate, and play some young, exciting players. I'll still come. And then Scott M. Trey Ford is a terrible football player. I don't get why Edmontonians love him. Because he was exciting, and he won the last 4 football games this Edmonton team won.
He didn't win them.
He was the starting quarterback.
He was a part of a team.
He was the starting quarterback that was.
Yeah.
I would say he won a couple of those.
Stick to ping pong.
What?
It's an individual sport.
Oh. Well, but
not.
the quarterbacks
Football's a
get
team
the
sport.
wins, loss. The QBs get the wins, losses put to them. They do. That's how it goes.
Corey B. in the Paris Jewelers inbox. If you want to hit us up, text 780-218-9999. We'd love to hear from you. Corey B. says, I say the pre- and post-game show was the highlight of the night, except he's wrong because it's the Green and Gold kickoff show. Right, Maddie?
It is the Green and Gold kickoff show and the Green and Gold postgame show. That is the official title, but I still call it the pregame show, too, every so often. It's still a pregame show, but we just officially, the official wording is kickoff show because it's more fun.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very rarely am I speechless. I'm speechless. So I'm just going to sip on my 6 o'clocker lager for a minute.
Let's go through the stats of this game quickly here. McLeod Bethel-Thompson, 27 of 39, 206 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Trey Ford, 1 for 2, 4 yards. He also rushed once for 3. Kevin Brown, 9 carries for 26 yards. Geno Lewis had 12 targets, 7 catches, 74 yards. Gittin Jr., 6 catches, 8 targets, only 17 yards with that, though. Kevin Brown, 4 catches for 30 yards. Dylan Mitchell, 4 catches for 25. Smith, 3 catches for 40. Mayala, 3 catches for 29. Javon Leake, 1 catch for -5 yards. The Elks credited with 3 sacks in this game. Brown leading the way. Elliott Brown with tackles at 5. Over to the Ottawa Redblacks, a couple of key players. Drew Brown, 22 of 33, 257 yards, no touchdowns, but 2 interceptions. Armstead had 12 carries for 53 yards and a touchdown. No 100-yard receivers for the Ottawa Redblacks tonight, but Justin Hardy, 5 catches for 61 yards. Pimpleton, 5 catches for 56. Rhymes, 3 catches for 53. Lamont, their cornerback, had 9 defensive tackles. He also had an interception and a knockdown. He led the way. They got to McLeod Bethel-Thompson twice in this game, but they did get a lot of pressure overall. And then the key stat in this one, Boris Beatty, 4 of 7 when it comes to field goals, missing 3 kicks. Those kicks, can I quickly find them here? He missed a 45-yarder, a 42-yarder, and a 43-yarder. If it was over 50, I'd be able to defend him. You're in your 40s. You need to be making those kicks, especially when you were brought in as one of the key free agent additions for Chris Jones at the time and G-Roy Simon. And it's so far just being a waste of money. Could have saved money for Dean Faithful. Go for
it. And simply, I just admit, I don't know. But, like, if Boris Beatty gets released or relieved of his duties, you still have to pay him out, right?
Depends on the contract.
What's the contract?
I don't know. We don't know those things in the Canadian Football League.
God bless the CFL.
I'd assume because there used to be a thing that if you're on the roster after Labor Day, you get paid for the year or something like that. I don't know if that's still the rules.
Well, then get rid of him.
There would have to be some sort of savings.
Like you've said, Dean Faithful sitting there. Why not?
At that point, I don't even care about the cap situation. Dean Faithful might give you a better chance at winning.
Just to get the cancer out of the locker room.
I wouldn't go that. Say that. Cancer, well, when you say cancer in the locker room, that means they're a bad person in the locker room.
He's a bad football player.
Performance isn't there. The performance isn't there.
Have you seen a locker room with a bad football player in it? It's cancerous. It's bad. Trust me.
Yeah, but usually that saying is reserved for, like, they're a terrible teammate.
He is, because he can't kick a field goal. Awful. He's one of the worst teammates, actually.
Atif, awesome hanging out with everyone tonight. It really sucks. I might wear a paper bag to the game next Sunday if they're going to be a battle of 2 0-6 teams next Sunday.
Don't do that. You know what? Here's the thing. Okay, you said something earlier, Matt. 4 of 7 for Boris Bede. 7 times this team was maybe not in the red zone, but they were in a distance where the kicker should and could make a field goal. 7 times. They ended up scoring 14 points. What is that all about? That's terrible. 7 times on this side of the 50-yard line in the CFL, you should at least be scoring 30% of those. So let's say you get just 2 touchdowns. See you later, guys. 2 touchdowns and 3 field goals. Right? That's 23 points. You win the game. As much as I'd love to place all the blame on Boris Bede, that offense was inside in scoring range 7 times and couldn't get over the finish line. They weren't how many?
So what's that on? Who's that on?
Jarius Jackson and MBT. I don't think MBT played well. Edmonton was in the red zone once.
And that was the end of the game.
7
near the end.
Boris Bede kicked 7 field goals, or attempted. Edmonton was in the red zone once. That is disgusting. I am on board, Matt. I shall bow my knee to you. Trey Ford should come in as a starter starting next week. Why not? I mean, at this point,
Well, then now that's my point to the prior, though, is that at that point, you're now saying it's about 2025.
No.
To a degree.
Not you. You're the guy that's the Trey Ford leader of the fan club. Shouldn't he bring the Elks back to a president?
No, because part of it was he needed to be anointed that before the season when you spent the money in different spots. They could have built a much better team and allowed Trey Ford then to develop this season and to see what would have happened. Now all the pressure is now going to be thrown on Trey Ford to be the savior of this team.
Stop it with all the pressure. You might be the anointed, the starting quarterback of one of the greatest franchises in the CFL. Lose this pressure stuff. You're a starting quarterback.
Sure, but you're coming into a situation where people are expecting you to salvage. I'm not saying that, but people are expecting him to salvage an 0-6 season then at that point.
No, you're not. You're not.
I know I'm not. I know other people will be. I know other people will be.
The season's a bust anyways. Let's see what the kid can do. No pressure.
Well, that is the pressure because you said earlier that they have to win football games because the CFL can't allow this. So now you're flipping, unless you just change your tune completely.
No, I'm not flipping. They will win a game or two. They have to. It's like the rule of law. It's a law of averages. It's just I don't know how they're going to win if they don't have the winning mentality. Maybe Trey Ford's the guy that can do that. Maybe if you put him in and let him just deal with the offense, they can rally around that. I don't know.
The value I see with Trey Ford when he's out there is that O-line is not good when they need to protect the quarterback, and he could at least move around. MBT can't do that.
Tango in the Nazi chat makes a great point. First thing, I'm watching the Saskatchewan and Winnipeg. First thing I see is how they are both using the run game. Look at the rushing yards from tonight's game. 12 rushes for 40 yards for Edmonton, 18 rushes for 75 yards for Ottawa. If you could figure out how to rush for, say, I don't know, a measly 120 a game, I think you might be the greatest team in the CFL. It's saddening to me that the CFL is so dependent on passing now, but I guess it is the way it is. But
it's always been a passing league. Before the NFL, it was a pass. It had the passing league to it way before.
Of course,
just by the nature of the 2 downs.
But I think it's gotten.
They can't, but the Elks can't run to a degree. Also, now they're not running enough, but their O-line's not creating the holes.
Don't say that. That was tonight. One game. The offensive line looked like a dumpster fire tonight. That's one game.
They can't create.
You cannot. No, don't say that because.
Let me finish.
Okay.
They don't create the whole. You could talk about Prukop going on the outside. No, Prukop's gone up middle and has been stopped. They get a yard off the ball and they don't get the spot where Prukop can go in. We've seen the struggles there this year. We've seen them. They struggled in week 1. The reason the O-line has looked better this season to some degree is because McLeod Bethel-Thompson releases the ball so quick. Tonight, he didn't have that release. So we saw what this offensive line is. This is who they are. They are not better than this.
Well, and you got in a position late in the game where you have to throw the ball more, so you know that defensive line is teeing off on you and not respecting the run game because you're not going to run the ball at that point.
They have not addressed the O-line in basically 3 seasons, outside of bringing in Mark Cordy. But then they traded away David Beard, and so they basically are balanced to even with that move.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you look at the days gone by of a Patty Kabongo on the outside tackle, right? Shutting that down. That was those O-lines. I forget the name. Big, tall, blonde farmer from Saskatchewan. Just a big farm boy. You know, you can build around stuff like that, but I don't. You know, the whole team was exposed for who they are tonight. They're not even frauds because they stink. They're 0-6. So you can't even call them frauds.
No.
No.
And then this is – they just further proved why Chris Jones was fired as general manager.
I guess so, yes.
That's the thing that this – I don't care about the head coach because he had both roles. Tonight showed me that, as general manager, Chris Jones deserved to lose his job. That was the ultimate thing. You could make the argument maybe deserved maybe a better fate as a head coach in the end or something like that because the results were so close. No, the GM of this team did not build a winning football team. He did not bring in the right players to win football games with this group and is very poorly constructed. And whoever the next GM of this team is going to be, they have a lot of work to do to turn this thing around. And it starts at figuring out who your quarterback is because I don't know who the quarterback is for 2025. It's about building a brand new defense. You've got one player right now that, Niles Morgan is that big player. But Purefoy is getting up there in age. You got to make decisions on those young secondaries. There's some players there. They need some time, but you can't have that many young players there. But the GM is going to have a lot of work to do when they come in. And we won't know who that GM is for a long time because we need to know who the new owner is. Then we need to know who the new president is. And then they can figure out who the new GM is.
Yeah, it's going to take some steps,
It's going to take some time.
Yeah,
it's going to take some time.
But, I just can't wrap my head around this, Matty. I don't get it. I don't get how. I've got every scoring change here written down in my notebook. And it's just butt-ended by mistakes and by, a lack of giving a you-know-what. Stop. They make a massive stop. Turnover on downs. 2-0. Interception. 2-0. Like, this team has no vigor, has no tenacity, has no ability to take advantage of a momentum swing. Like, this is what sports is bred on, is taking advantage of the highs of a interception, let's go. 2-0. I've never seen anything like it.
That to me says leadership.
Sure.
The team leadership. We thought we saw that at Band-Aid, that we're going to see the leadership, really a better leadership group. It's not there. It's not there. They haven't built that team that is holding themselves accountable or whatever it is. That's where I will look at it and go, it's something in that locker room with the team leadership, which is also pretty disheartening to see. Nasty chat. Jason the Arcadian. Mark this day, Glue Guy's enthusiasm has severely taken a hit, and it was this Elks team that did it.
I just don't know what to say, Jay. I really don't.
Shotgun Sports Network, which is Scout, Elks call, wasted almost every defensive turnover, which you've pointed out to.
Yeah.
Corey, Elks trail all game. That takes away the run game. But the thing with that, and this is where I'll call out Jarius Jackson as the offensive coordinator, it's not like they were fully out of it, though. It's not like they were blown out. What was the furthest that they were out of this football game? It was, worst score I have here was 14-6. Then it was 20-11 at one point, so 9 points.
9 points.
Now, that was at the very end of the game. Obviously, with 4 minutes to go, you're not running at that point to catch up. But for the majority of this football game, you were very much right in this. So it's not even like that they were trailing that you couldn't continue with the run game. You could absolutely still attempt to run the football. But part of this is Jarius Jackson isn't calling those plays. I could say that partly is that O-line, but he also only had 9 carries. How many carries has he had this season? I don't think the CFL stats will be updated with today's game.
This is their 6th game. I'm gonna guess. I would say he has averaged 8.
This was their 6th.
8 or 7. So I'd say 45 to 50 carries through 6 games without looking at it.
48.
48.
He had 39 carries coming into this game. And he added 9 carries. Did I do that? Yeah, 48.
Nailed it.
So that's an average of 8 carries per game.
No big deal.
That's less than 10. If you want to add touches to this, because we'll talk about, hey, you need to get more touches overall with that. Let me see how quickly I can get that part up on here. There's Kevin Brown. So he had 17 catches coming into today. He added 4. So 48 plus 21.
I don't care for touches.
But overall, you want the running back to have.
I know, but I want running backs to run the ball.
Sure, but he's averaged less than 12 touches per game, even.
Yeah, that's absurd. All right, here's the question of the day, Matt. Unless you have one, so I don't want to steal your thunder like I.
No, I've never do a question on
like
the postgame show.
Do.
That's only on the pregame show. So feel free. You want to do one? Go for it.
What do you do moving forward? How does one fix this? Like they say, Jupiter's a big ball of gas that's floating out there, and it's always rotating and mixing and exploding, and sometimes good, sometimes bad, sometimes bigger, sometimes. This is what this team is.
How I would go about this is I would go with this team again one more time. It is Hamilton.
But okay.
Wait, just let me.
Yeah.
Because if you get that victory against Hamilton, maybe we've talked about, does that open up the floodgates? Is it that thing? They just need that first win. And then it frees them a little bit, and they could go out and play their football games. If there's a game this team could go win against, it should be the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Don't say that.
But it should, there's no one else in the schedule that you could say that.
Don't say that. Oh, my God.
If you lose to Hamilton, if you lose at home again to Hamilton, then to me it's everything's up for grabs. Trey Ford's the new starting quarterback of the team. I'm making various changes. I'm looking, if I'm G. Roy Simon, now this is where it gets delicate. I'm making some moves to bring some guys in, but Rick Lawless sure has to be watching those trades carefully because he can't allow just look, could you get something for Eugene Lewis? Well, maybe the new GM wants to keep Eugene Lewis around or do something. So, you got to be careful of trying to get pieces for next year. But G. Roy Simon's not the GM of this team for sure next year or at all. Who knows? So, you got to be careful what players you get rid of, but you got to start bringing some new players in and trying things because that's where you're at that point. But Trey Ford's the new starting quarterback at that point. And that's where I'm, finding the Blanco is somehow trying that weak side linebacker spot. I'm trying a couple of other younger guys to see what they can do. I maybe, they went and they don't have a first-round pick this year because they bring in a wide receiver. I'm maybe playing that wide receiver. And just getting some playing times because you got to get these reps in. I'll be at that point. Trey Ford's the starting quarterback till the rest of the season for me because that next general manager needs enough tape to be able to sit there and go, is this guy a starting quarterback in 2025 or not? That should have been the point of this season for me going into it. But it was about winning, and now we're back to that. But we could have, if we had went the way that the fans wanted to, if we went the way I wanted to at the start of this season, there would have been a better overall football team around Trey Ford to have a better analysis of whether he could be a starting quarterback in this league. But this is where the arrogance of Chris Jones came in, and it's hurt the team, even for 2025.
Yeah, and I still don't even understand what you're saying with trades and this and
you could have had a better offensive line for Trey Ford. You could have built a better defense. You had the receivers. You didn't need to add receivers. And you could have went in the season with a better overall built team to analyze who Trey Ford is as starting quarterback. Now we're sitting here right now saying this team is garbage. This team isn't good. And that's how you're going to evaluate Trey Ford.
This team is playing like garbage. This team...
They're 0-6.
...is not garbage.
I don't know. The record is who you are at this point. We're a third of the way through the season.
I agree. But just listen to that statement. The team has an issue. Not you or I don't know exactly what that issue is. We're not in the locker room. We don't know if there's like major distance between offense. I don't know. I've been in a handful of locker rooms, and thankfully they've been pretty symbiotic. But there is a difference between an offensive side and a defensive side. So I don't know if something's going on there. There's something going on here that is not disclosed to the average fan or pundit that we do not know of. I'm telling you that. This team is just so dysfunctional, repeatedly kicking themselves, stubbing their toe. This is not normal. This is not even something you could justify like, oh, shucks, it happened again. No, this is, oh, shucks, it's happened 6 weeks in a row. So now what do you do? That's the question I'm asking. What do you do? Do you make another change? I mean, the only actual change, and maybe we talked about it, is Trey Ford. But is that it? I mean, why wasn't Trey Ford in the fourth quarter? Why wasn't Trey Ford in the third quarter? When McLeod Bethel-Thompson was clearly getting eaten up by the rush. And it would have been a great time, actually a hell of a time, to have a footloose and fancy-free quarterback in the pocket that could move around and elude that rush. Why not? I feel like you're my therapist right now.
Well, I don't want to be too critical of Jerry's because going into the game I said I'd understand if Trey Ford didn't play. Because of the short week.
I know. That's why you look at the game.
And when he did come in, it was It was fine. And so I wonder if you're Jarius Jackson going, really, are we going to get much more from him right now? I didn't see enough from him earlier. So it's hard for me to fully go after Jarius Jackson on that when I would then feel like I'm a little bit of a hypocrite from what I said earlier in the kickoff show. So next week against Hamilton, I expect a lot more packages with Trey Ford. I expect to see double the series that he gets, maybe. He got 2 series today. Maybe I would expect 3 to 4 for sure next game. That's the thing.
He didn't look great, but I don't.
But he didn't look bad. I don't know.
That, but they ran like 2 passing plays.
Well, new 2 passing plays. He rushed the ball where the offense
outside of the pocket. Let him test the defense. If you're going to come up and challenge me, okay, great. I'll dump it over your head. That's what you're supposed to do with a running quarterback.
I know, but he needs to learn how to be a passing quarterback.
Don't worry about that. Baby steps. Why not lean into what he's good at right now? Hey, judging by, and albeit it was, 2 series? He's not a pocket passer.
Well, because he needs to grow into it. He needs to develop. But
sure.
he didn't write him. Like, the thing about last year that you and a few people criticized him for was he just kept running.
Yeah.
And that he wasn't going to be a pocket quarterback. Well, he's got to learn that. So when is he going to learn this?
He ran once tonight and took a great shot to the head.
When you say he goes out there, he should start running at a way as opposed to, he needs to go develop.
I'm not talking about him running like design run plays. I'm saying get him outside of the pocket and put pressure on that outside edge to say, all right, if you're going to come at me.
You want him to roll out for passing. That's what you're saying there.
It's
the rollouts. Yeah, okay. I'm just... Yeah. It sounded like you were saying he needs to just go run.
No. Design plays that influence the defense. It says, all right, if you're going to come and challenge me and bring a person up in my face, well, there's going to be somebody open right there. Dump it off and get your 6 to 7, 8 yards. That's what I'm talking about. Because people in that position on the edge, when you're outside of the hashes, it's either or get off the pot. You can't have both. You have to decide. And if they don't decide, then Trey Ford takes up and scampers for 15 yards and runs out of bounds without getting hit. It's not rocket science. It's an offense. Just surprised that
maybe actually truly isn't that good.
Who?
The offense. I will go there. I will say that. When you could say that they're not playing well, but they're still good. This might not be a right mix of players, that they have some talent in their own ways, but they're not a good football team. And they're not good players as a group, as a mix. And that's what we might be learning. Or have learned.
Yeah. This was a weird one, Matt. It wasn't like we've watched every game sitting beside each other, hand in hand.
Unless you're going to win.
And we've never seen that offensive line get torched like they did tonight.
Saskatchewan wasn't good. It wasn't as bad as this one.
It wasn't as bad as this. This was glaringly quite egregious.
But that's where MBT wasn't throwing the ball as quickly. This O-line, look, I haven't been a fan of this O-line for a number of years. I think they've needed to address it the last 2 off seasons. So that's where I am on it. I'm not sold on this. I'm fine in the middle. I'm fine with Cordy in the middle. It's those ends and things on those outsides that they're just not strong enough or good enough. And I think part of why Kevin Brown's not getting the rushes, too, is I think Jarius Jackson's seeing that the holes aren't there from the offensive line this season.
Well, and don't forget that Hunter Stewart went down in the game. So that instilled backup lineup, Grohovac, that, may have contributed to this pressure that was put on in the second half.
57, right? So that was late third quarter-ish.
Yeah, and you could see a lot of pressure applied late in the game. They were teeing off because they knew they had a backup in there. Let's get into the nasty chat, Matty. Zulu says, bringing MBT in this season was an ultimate fail, to be honest. It damaged a lot, not with the team and the fans. It damaged a lot.
With the team and the fans, I'm assuming?
Maybe. Lance Kane, just play the kid. Let him sink or swim. Who cares about the season at this point? Penner's Pancake says, I'm cheering for YTT. Good. We're all thinking about you, YTT. I hope it's going good out there at the ballpark. I look for an update.
I hope it's going well out there.
I hope it's going good out there.
That's not proper. I'm pretty sure. Just calling you on that one since you always call me on me and Jay. So, yeah. Hope it's going well out there.
I hope it's going real good out there for you, kiddo. Starting forward, this is an interesting one from Penner's Pancakes. Starting forward will probably bring an extra $3,000 just to see him play, win, or lose. What do you think of that comment, Matty?
I don't think it does. It didn't start last year when Trey Ford first went in, fans came out. And then fans kind of knew who Trey Ford was. It was once he won a few football games, then the fans came out the rest of the way. He's got to go in and win some football games. That ultimately is the biggest factor in all of this. It's winning. If Trey Ford goes in as the starting quarterback against Hamilton Tiger Cats and wins, they get Saskatchewan, then they get BC. That BC game is the one where I could see then fans coming out if Trey Ford goes and wins that football game. But it's also the winning part of this. I think fans are too pissed off with this organization and too, is damaged the right word from this, where they're too damaged from this organization, where anytime they get their hopes up over the last 10 years, they get crushed or whatever it is. Almost maybe 8 years. Well, I'll take 14, 15. Those were the last 2 good years. That's why I wouldn't say that, yeah, fans will just immediately come if Trey Ford's the starting quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This team is just so different every week. I mean, I could look back through my post-game notes or in-game notes and find a different story every game that was like, other than the last two, obviously, Boris Beatty was
He's the biggest reason. We didn't go. The three reasons the Elks lost. Number one is Boris Beatty tonight. Number two is the offense.
We're doing 3 reasons
now? I forgot to get to it a little bit. But number two would be the offense, lackluster offense. Not settling for 7 attempts of field goals.
Yeah.
Not getting into the end zone once. In a football game, not once getting into the end zone. And then the third reason that they lost,
I would say the ineptitude to take advantage.
Yeah, sure.
Of turnovers. Would you agree?
Yep. I think Scout had that earlier in the nasty chat too.
the ineptitude to say, and that's the critical points in games. Your defense does their job. They give you the ball back. They put it in your hands. All you got to do is take it and run, take it and score, do something with it. A 2 and out. That's deflating once. Because you know how those defensive guys, they come up, they're firing on all cylinders, they're pumped up, they're whooping it up.
They got to go right back on the field.
And then 2 plays later, you're back on the field for special teams. That happened 3 times tonight out of 4. Because they don't count for the stats. Remember, we were looking at why turnovers weren't accounted for.
Yeah, I don't think it counts as a stat. Although there is the...
It is a turnover.
I do have the game stats here.
It's absolutely a turnover.
In the post-game stats, it's usually shown up as a turnover. Because they do have it listed in here. Here's the official CFL one that just got emailed out a few minutes ago. They list Ottawa. Actually, they don't list that as a turnover on downs.
I know.
They do list it downs. I don't know why they don't list that as a turnover on downs.
It's weird, but it's the same result.
But they stopped them on 3rd down.
They stopped them. And then the offense came out and laid it.
So why would that count? I think they just screwed that up.
There's another stat in there that says it. I saw it earlier on our stat thing, Matt.
No, that's just a screw up.
It was something like team losses.
No, but that was on the quarterback.
Team losses.
But it doesn't. But it's a turnover on downs.
It doesn't really matter.
Well, it does for CFL fantasy purposes. That's what I was thinking about there. That's CFL fantasy purposes. Well, but like in the end, that if you stop someone on 3rd down and you get the football, that is a turnover on down.
God bless you, Matt.
Like
you could have just said that from the start. I'm like, why are you harping on this?
Well, because that's such a big mistake. It's the same as I don't know if they've probably corrected that Kevin Brown got the fumble in week 1 when it was Javon Lee.
Javon Lee is clearly, yes. We were both here. Well, I look forward to holding your hand again next week. It's going to be this blame Dusty stuff's got to stop.
Why?
Dusty has nothing to do with this. Oh, tube socks. Are we going to bring up the elephant in the room? The green pants / green socks leotard look? WTF. A Dwayne Mandrusiak team would never take the field looking so silly. I thought they looked okay.
The cameras and the colors of the game were garbage, so I don't know what we're looking at. Again, as Tube Sock said earlier, it's like we're walking through a black and white camera or something. I'm not judging anything because the lighting in TD Place Stadium was pretty trashy. So Norman at Combine and the Paris Jewelers inbox, boy, it was piss poor offensive play tonight. Plain and simple, maybe next game, Norman at Combine. Also, the officiating was not great tonight either, especially early in this game. A lot of missed calls. On that first drive, it was OPI. Dominic Grimes pushed the defender off. I'm surprised Jarris Jackson didn't challenge. Also not surprised because it was so early in the game, and do you want to waste one that early? But it was I saw it sitting over here at Century Casino on the TV over there. Like, it was pretty obvious that he pushed off. You could see it in real time. That should get flipped. Yeah, that is us. We got hello in that text.
All right, hang on. I'm going to go into our Paris Jewelers inbox just so I can read that text.
Well, it just said hello.
Where is it?
I don't know. It was 780-218-9999. He did have that there, and it's not showing up.
Corey B said, I love you.
Yeah, because I gave him something, so that's all good. Shoggy and St. Albert, we're at the point where you start the rebuild. Even if they're able to win against Hamilton, which I doubt, they're losing the fall week. Why waste time on delusion that this is a good team? Find out what you got in Ford. Jettison the deadwood you have, Beatty and others, so you know what your plan is required for 2025. And that's what I said earlier. At what point are we getting to that? At what point are we there where you're saying it's on to 2025? As this show has gone on, though, the one concern I have about that is you don't have a general manager that's here for 2025 at the moment. And that's a risky move.
They'll figure that out.
Right, but you can't make those. I don't. If I'm running a franchise, if I'm Rick Lawlisher, if I'm the new owner of this team, I don't want this franchise making decisions that is impacting 2025 right now.
No, leave it alone. Let the dead body lie.
I know, but that's where, to what Shoggy and St. Albert just said, is that you start that rebuild, you start jettisoning players out and going with Trey Ford. Like, I started by saying how soon until you get to that point on this show, but as this show's gone on, I've had to switch that in my mind because you don't actually have a general manager at this moment for 2025. G-Roy is just the interim, and I don't want them, as I said, one of the examples I said earlier, I don't want them trading a Eugene Lewis, let's say, to try to bring in some young players because I might want, or the next GM might want Eugene Lewis as part of their plans. Like, it's those things that it's, that rebuild for 2025, it's hard to start that plan for 2025 fully when you don't know who's going to be the architect of the team in 2025. You could only do with what I think you have with the players on the roster right now, and there's not a lot of those options that you can actually go with. But there's the obvious one, but how many of the other ones could you actually go execute? I agree, Boris Beatty's one that I would be fine with. Just give me Dean Faithful, go find a new kicker next year.
Might I suggest that the decisions that are being made now in terms of player personnel, even coaching personnel, do you not think, I mean, we saw a clip tonight at the game where G. Roy Simon was sitting up in the press box.
Mm-hmm.
Did
With
you
Rick
see who he
Rollister?
said? Yeah, right beside him.
Mm-hmm.
That's not normal.
Rick's been traveling all year.
I know.
The president usually travels. The president's usually there.
Maddie, I've seen them in the press box down from the media room at Commonwealth. And G-Roy is not in the same room as Rick Rollister. So I don't know if every decision is being turned through the new ownership group.
Sorry about that.
You okay, Matt?
Well, I'm helping. He was finding one to know where he could listen for us to respond to his text.
Oh.
And I was just trying to explain where it was, but I don't know where his text is coming up. It's not showing up.
So I was just trying to explain to you my theory on Rick Wellisher and
well, I was trying to tell someone how to listen to us, and I thought you were talking to the Nasties there. Okay, continue.
I guess I'll get to it next week.
So they don't sit together
No,
at
they
Commonwealth.
don't sit together at Commonwealth.
Right, but
I
the
know that for a
difference.
fact.
I know, but
I know you're on the road.
There you only get one spot.
But
You don't
it's
get the multiple spots.
Very rare for a GM to sit beside the president.
In the CFL, I'd have to look closer. I don't feel like it is.
No, the GM should probably be in somewhere in the spotters booth with the coaches, chopping it up.
No, I don't want the GM next to the coaches. I don't want the GM trying to dictate what type of plays to call. I want them separated from that.
Not dictating anything.
I don't want them talking to the coaches during the game.
No. It's just being there so he has somewhere to go. Anyways.
Oh, we got the text in now.
Okay.
I'll have to read it after.
This is getting out of context. The context of it was, do you not think any of these personnel player changes, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that? Do you not think that's going through that new ownership group? Because
but the ownership group doesn't have a GM in place, and I don't want them making the football decisions.
The ownership group owns G. Roy Simon right now.
Fine, but you're not the general manager of this team. I need them. They need to go hire a president who needs to hire a general manager.
They're stuck with him right now. That is their GM.
I know, but that's where you can't. If I'm the new owner, I'm saying don't do much to this team. I don't want you trading away player. I don't want you cutting a lot of players.
That's what I just said.
I know, but that's what I've been saying. I switched.
Okay, so we agree.
I know, but I don't know why you're then like.
Well, screw you.
Because what I said is at the start of the show, I was at a point where you completely just start changing players. But as this show has progressed, because there's no general manager in place, you don't want to do that because you want the next general manager to make that.
It's not like you could even go out and replace all these players anyways.
Well, you could bring in some players from America. You could cut some of these veterans. There are ways. We saw it. We saw it 2 years ago. I fully remember.
It doesn't really work.
It doesn't work, but you start bringing in players. And that year, the Elks ended up actually finding Kevin Brown, Dylan Mitchell, Christian Salisbury, RIP, and a few other players throughout all that.
Yeah, right.
But it was a massive training camp where there was a press release of multiple names every week of being cut and brought in. We've seen it in this city before. I don't want a general manager that is an interim right now with no president is also an interim making those decisions. That's the issue of that for 2025. We need to get a new ownership group in here quickly. They need to hire a president quickly, and they need to determine what they want to do as a GM quickly, if they can.
Sure.
That's what now needs. Honestly, if that's the
Maybe
thing,
that's the next step. Maybe
if that's the takeaway I'm taking in this, is that now they need to fast track the ownership. They need to fast track that and get that done before the end of the month, so that ownership group could start evaluating this franchise, but they could put in a president who could start dealing with this. And
just start.
That's the thing. Because even in the end, if Rick Lawler's sitting right there, he said it this week. He's not the football guy. he's also not the long-term president of this club. Somebody else is.
Absolutely not.
So we need to get to that now. That's the thing, maybe. This doesn't matter about the football team almost anymore. If we're looking for 2025, it doesn't matter what happens on the field. It's strictly about what's happening up high. The texter that's listening here, what's your thoughts on the receiving corps? It seems to me they're dropping a lot of balls and killing drives. This seems to be the same case as last year with Taylor Cornelius. Your thoughts? And he also said hello.
Hello.
Hello. That was from a different day.
What the thoughts on the receiving corps? I mean,
that they're dropping a lot of balls.
If you put the ball on them, they're generally going to catch it. If you overthrow them by 5 yards, they're probably not going to have a chance of catching it.
You thought they should have caught a few extra today, though.
There was a couple.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, MBT was under a lot of pressure. It wasn't great. But to the same point, MBT missed a wide open shot down the middle. Right? Late, was that third quarter? Missed a wide open long shot.
To Hergy Mayal in the end zone.
Do it. You got him. 4 yards outside. It's just, these things are now consistent. We talked about this at the start of the year, that patterns will develop. And loser patterns develop. Very clear. Winning patterns, sometimes you don't know how they win. Sometimes it's this. Sometimes it's this. Sometimes it's defense, offense, running game, passing game, special teams. Loser patterns develop pretty much the same as they always have. It's quite consistent. Except tonight, they had some turnovers. So, but special teams is killing them. Tonight, the offensive line was put on point. They were put on blast. They were touched to a degree that they have not been this year.
This team needs to go 7-5 down the stretch for you.
Hey.
I'm just going to throw that out there.
God hates a coward.
That's all I'm going to say. They need to get going on that. That's almost going to wrap up tonight's edition of the Green and Gold Postgame Show. Iwanyk and Jay Milne, live from Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge, where every day is game day. We'll be back next Sunday. What day is that? That is July 28th, as the Edmonton Elks will be set to take on the Hamilton Tigers down at Commonwealth Stadium. It's a 5 o'clock kickoff, which means we have the pregame or the kickoff show at 4 o'clock live from Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge. You know what Sunday is? Daily special is Surf and Turf, $11.99. They also have the game day special of the cheese and jalapeno smoky for $14.99 with the waffle
Give
flies.
the people what they want.
The
Give them
quesadillas?
the quesadilla
They were
review.
delicious. And usually when you order the quesadillas, they're really small. This
These were
wasn't small. These were
proportionate.
massive.
It was big. We could have shared that.
Well, I was about to say that, I think in the pregame, I don't know if it was on the air or after, I said, I'm disappointed there's no side.
Oh,
you
don't need to say.
Well,
Yes,
I said
yes,
to you. I said to you. I was like, well, I didn't know if I was going to go quesadilla.
That was
I'm like,
before the show.
Okay.
And I said, okay, we'll get a side of fries or something.
But I was like, well, I don't know. I kind of want a side. When that came, I was like, I don't need a side. Don't need a side one bit.
Okay,
it's massive.
So, like a pita that comes in the bag from the grocery store? That was the side.
massive.
It was a whole pita.
And it was $11.99, $10.99. $10.99.
And it had fresh jalapenos. It had everything.
I took out the onions.
Dips, everything. It was beautiful.
Fun. Yeah, you got
Andrea had it too.
It was great.
She was living her
delicious.
best life.
It was the way it is. Fridays, come to Central Casino Sports Bar and Lounge. I don't know when the next time the Elks have a Friday.
Like
but,
the bum I am, I got chicken tenders.
But those smelled good,
They were
and you
really
loved
good.
them.
They were
you
really
loved
good.
them. And because of that, T-Roy had them,
yeah.
and he loved them. So Central Casino Sports Bar and Lounge. Look at these TVs behind us. You can see it all on the camera on YouTube for those watching. This is a place you just want to come watch sports. And then you could also go play some games and be lucky like Mr. J is over here. The horse is paid off. The vet bill is paid off.
Yeah, those stitches are paid off, April.
Any final thoughts?
No.
Okay. You
I got
became
nothing left to
depressed
say.
tonight. You became depressed tonight.
I'm not depressed. You know what?
Well, Jason said that the enthusiasm took its first hit of you at EST, I think, finally.
It finally it caught up to me because I'm just so sick of seeing losers play professional football. God, it's sickening.
Edmonton Elks fall 20-14 to the Ottawa Redblacks, lose the season series, getting swept in back-to-back weeks to the Redblacks. They dropped to 0-6 on the season. As we said, the next game next Sunday as they play host to the Hamilton Tiger Cats, who also could be winless. Don't worry, there could be ties in the Canadian Football League, so it's not guaranteed someone is going to get a victory next Sunday down at Commonwealth Stadium.
Could be a real barn burner.
Coming up tomorrow on EST, we've got Hello Hockey at 10 o'clock, their last edition of this hockey season. Then they'll be off for a few weeks. We've got Edmonton Riverhawks action tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Sunday, we got the VIP Golf Show with Murray McCourt, Curtis Stock. Meg Polson will be on the show, our old friend from 1260. And then the Riverhawks 10:30 that day. And then we're back on Monday. Lieutenant Eric, Walking Gage, YouTube Trev. They'll kick it all off Monday morning, 6 o'clock with the Nielsen Show, as I'm sure they will be recapping the Canadian Football League weekend. Thanks to everyone who showed up at Century Casino. Thanks to Century Casino themselves. I guess thanks to Renee for the quick appearance, but still didn't spend any time.
You're officially under close watch.
I'm messing. As soon as this ends, I'm going. I was hoping maybe there'd be one more appearance or something, but nothing. Nothing from Renee. She will be hearing from me on that one. Alex, the war server, fantastic stuff there. Thanks to the crew that was here, but also thanks to everyone for tuning in on EdmontonSportsTalk.com, on TuneIn, on iHeartRadio. If you're listening on podcast, well after. Hello from the past for those watching on YouTube. On behalf of Jay, I'm Matt. Thanks for tuning in to the Green and Gold post-game show. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Chat with you on Monday.